10 elimination victory royale. So, and we've seen plenty of like high elimination games, Panda. So it is no surprise, or would be no surprise to me if we saw one of those come out in one of these last two games.
I mean, you're absolutely correct. And another thing we got to point out is that fifth place spot was tied with sixth, meaning that that bottom qualification spot is very easily up for grabs for one of these teams that are in the bottom half of the leaderboard. So it really boils down to how they'll be able to handle these situations here moving forward. But I'm actually pretty interested to see how MENA plays in comparison to EU and NA. Obviously, Vivid and I, we've had the opportunity to cast over NA. We've had the opportunity to cast over EU. And now this is our first time getting to watch the action unfold here live with you all on the MENA region. So, Vivid, I'm pumped.
Yeah, very, very pumped. And kind of some of the gameplay that I have seen out of the MENA region is that in these end games, you know, me and Panda have casted over a bunch of games where their vehicles have been very, very prevalent in the end game. But I feel like MENA, we've seen that less than we have in the other regions. So very, very interesting. And it creates for a lot of these very chaotic end games because, you know, there's not these vehicles roaming around to kind of like dominate, right? So there's a lot of like gunplay going on and everything like that, where these players can really show off their skills. As we turn over to FKS actually picking up an early elimination down at the Synapse station, and now the remaining solo left to kind of do it, hiding in the bush, but no, Al cannot get it done as Baylor picks up the second elimination for his duo early on in this early game. And this is what I was talking about, Paylan. Those early eliminations really do contribute to how many you can get. So kind of setting themselves up for one of those big elimination victory royales early on.
Yeah, and that's what you love to see, right? Some adjustments to the early game gameplay and adding in that early game aggression like Vivid was talking about, because realistically, eliminations are such a vital point to all of this format, which is why we've seen, despite great placement from players like the Heal-Off team, we still see eliminations more or less being key to the success of being at the top of the leaderboard. But realistically, we'll see how this continues to play out, because this is an interesting fight in itself, right? Obviously, the fight for Tilted Towers has been something that's been going on for years within Fortnite. So it's exciting to see it continue to happen here in Chapter 3 Season 2. But speaking of something that's happening, the Porter Rifts, or Rift to Goes, are back in the game, and they are in full effect in Zero Build.
Yeah, we've seen them used a lot, and it's very, very scary to me to go ahead and use those because you can quickly get just beamed out of the sky. As we can see, VDFO and King actually taking some shots, landing them as well. Going to be kind of forcing that player to reconsider their push. Babuka and Grev still considering going for these early eliminations. And I don't know, you know, this is one of those tough situations. King and VDFO do actually have to kind of rotate that way, but there is a lot of space on the map to work with. So they can probably just wrap around. And yeah, I think that's what they're going to end up doing, right? You can kind of back up, go ahead and look for some of this extra loot around the map. No need to just force a rotation directly at players that are kind of holding you out of that zone. As we can see, Grev and Muga kind of making a little bit of a rotation around, realizing that they're not going to really get much out of that fight. So King and Co doing well at defending their ground and kind of holding it, and they're going to be in a pretty good position here. They can wrap around, find some extra things to pick up.
Yeah, I agree. I think looking at their loadouts too, they can't afford to continue to try to take this game with the lack of stuff that they have. I think especially when it comes to any kind of range weapons within both of their loadouts, they're not really looking too solid, at least for what the mid game and the end game is going to require. But for Revere Buka, does have that Rift to Go still in the inventory, so that's going to be an easy escape if they need it. But speaking of an easy escape, it looks like somebody's rocking a vehicle as expected, because vehicles have been such an important part and a key element to everything happening in these zero build competitions. That's why you see 5ek and Rapid, they are rocking the truck and rotating forward. This is the time in the game that you want to find really solid positioning for your vehicles, so you don't have to worry about these players that are also rotating in, trying to take out your vehicles at the same time, because the last thing you need is to lose that vital truck here too early in the game.
Yeah, definitely do not want to go ahead and do that, because you can see those toolboxes being very, very important in this no build competition. You can get cow catchers out of them, and we've seen a lot of play with those cow catchers being very, very vital to kind of creating some impromptu cover, since we do have a lack of builds in this game mode. And again, you know, we still have this little bit of a showdown going on around the Daily Bugle. King and VDFO kind of looking to maybe re-engage. They have wrapped around, as I mentioned, and now they're the ones actually holding Grev and Buka out. As you can see, Buka's actually down in the Daily Bugle, which could be very troublesome for him to kind of rotate out. VDFO and King holding this high ground with the lack of the ability to create his own cover. Buka will have a very tough time kind of rotating out as long as King is aware of it. And this little standoff here, Panda, you know, this is something that is hard to deal with, and Grev and Buka spent so much time kind of looking for King and where they kind of rotated, that after they decided to rotate into the Daily Bugle finally, you know, King had enough time to loot and wrap all the way back around. So, you know, we talk a lot about that spatial awareness, and Grev and Buka kind of losing that spatial awareness and trying to compensate for it by looking for King and Cow have costed them a position, a very good position, and now they're kind of on the back foot.
Yeah, they're definitely on the back foot, and I think more or less the only option for them is to play the Storm there, because with that team continuing to hold them despite the zone closing in, it looks like it's going to be a tough rotate, to say the least, for those two teams. However, for Kai and Draftel here, now making their way over to Tilted Towers, and this could speak to some of the success that we've seen from them, because remember, they're one of those top teams that have been competing in the MENA region, and there's got to be a reason for it, and part of that reason probably is they know how to get to where they need to be, and they know how to take these engagements. So I'm excited to see this team actually get in the fold, get in the fray, and take on another team, because I want to see how this team plays together.
Yeah, I mean, Draftel and Kai, right, they've pretty much secured a top 5, in my opinion, right? They do have a 159-point lead coming into this game over 5th place, right? So I think that they are probably just going to have some fun this game, but, you know, if they are playing this well, they might as well continue to show that dominance in these last 2 games and create an even larger lead. And this is one of those situations here where Draftel and Senpai, oh, they're actually going to make an aggressive play here using the shockwaves. If they shockwave up, they can shockwave these 2 players off. There you go, yep. And they're going to knock them right off of the top of this blimp. And they are going to have this high ground, but if we're looking at the map, it's actually not too beneficial. I mean, they will be able to use those fans to kind of get a rotation maybe towards the center of the map, but no. Kai and Draftel actually looking kind of find themselves in isolated fight, a 2v1 situation on the Flicky here as Flicky jumps into the tank. Draftel quickly dropping into the gunner seat, and Flicky's going to use that shockwave to disengage from this fight. Kai on the lookout to see kind of where that player went. As you can see, Flicky and LCR regrouping here, so well done by this duo to kind of disengage from that top duo. You do not want to take a fight right now against Draftel and Kai. They are playing way too well even consider the outcome of that fight. And, you know, one of the most interesting things here, Panda, about this Tilted Towers conflict is that we actually see 2 of the top 5 teams landing here, but Snowvax and Modisk, alongside Draftel and Kai, who are landing here, they're actually only 2 points ahead of 5th place in 4th place position, right? So it's very, very tight around that top 5. But they do have to be a little careful. As you can see, they were disengaging.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. And it's funny, right? Because we've been talking up Kai and Draftel and their success so far with that dominant lead. But honestly, that play, while it was a good play, they failed to execute it correctly, in my opinion. When you get 2 players split in Tilted Towers like that, both you and your teammate need to focus one and just relentlessly push them, especially in zero build, because there's not much they can do to get away. But for Flicky, was able to still somehow kind of make some things happen and disengage, which is impressive in itself, right? But also, speaking of something impressive, it's Rapid getting just elimination after elimination for his team. Players are going down left and right, and fortunately for them, it looks like another couple eliminations may be in their sight.
Yeah, and that is very good pickup. Oh no, Rapid actually goes down. They are in 7th position coming into this game. Only 5 points behind top 5. As you can see, FKS going to making a play with the cow catcher on the truck here. onto Rapid and Duo, and yeah, they're going to make quick work there. Baylor and FKS, 4 eliminations to start this game off. They were in the 6th place position, actually tied for 5th with 298 points. So those 12 points from eliminations early on in this game are going to be a big factor in helping them secure that top 5.
A big factor indeed, and hopefully we'll see that executed flawlessly. But look at the elimination feed. It's Kai and Draftel. Yep. I'm sitting here talking about how they didn't execute that game plan correctly. It didn't matter. They still found them. They still got those eliminations, and they still continue to reign champs here in this lobby. But, ooh, okay. It looks like Wagner and Hero looking to potentially try to take out some of these players in the distance. That's the thing about the cow catcher, right? You cannot put 2 cow catchers extremely close to one another, and it'll always leave some sort of gap. So if you can find the gap there, especially with something like the heavy sniper, you're going to be able to not only do some damage, but potentially take out one of those players and get some elimination points. And remember, elimination points being 3 points per elimination is massive. So getting as many of those as you can throughout the game is going to be super important.
Yeah, and there you go, talking about those eliminations. Modisk actually picking up an elimination there on Wagner. Man, so much action over here on the MENA region. I feel like usually in EU we would kind of see like this standoff going on right now, right? So many people in vehicles, but no, MENA is just all about kind of maintaining these very good positions like Dexfight and Spy have all the way up here, right? This high ground is so good, and this high ground is actually allowing them this very strong angle onto these vehicles, which is why we see in the MENA region so many of these vehicles not really working out. As Spy looks for an angle on that tank, was going for shots on the driver who wasn't actually in the tank there. BDFO making a good decision to kind of hop out, but no, still going to be taking some damage in that driver's seat. Going to be making a quick little tricky play where he hops out and then hops back in to kind of throw the aim off there. But yeah, putting some good damage down, but he does have that repair torch, so as long as he can kind of hide that tank away, he'll be able to repair these vehicles up. So well done by King and VDFO to make that rotation.
Yeah, definitely good on them to be able to get away from that. That was definitely a tough fight to not only be a part of, but to fully disengage from. So the fact that they were able to get away from that is impressive. But if you're Spy, if you're Dexify, this is a really good spot to hold up until this point, right? Now that Zone 3 is getting ready to close in, you have to move. And so while it was nice to have such a nice little high ground position, it ultimately isn't going to factor into this next zone because it continues to pull away from it. But for players like SNW and Modisk, they already are set up. Natural cover in place. Ooh, and it looks like they're potentially leaving that chest to maybe bait some players close by, try to take advantage of players that rotate in the direction. But no, actually looking at the elimination feed, I don't know if you saw it there, but Kai potentially has gone down. And yes, and Kai Draftel. And Draftel are out of this game. So listen, if you're anywhere else between 2nd and 8th, now's your time to rack up some points because the big dogs are no longer in this match.
Yeah, right. That'll kind of like, you know, allow these players to be like, oh, nice, you know, like the best team isn't in anymore, kind of increase our chances to do well in this lobby. But if we're looking here at Modisk and Snow, they are evaluating this situation. And if we're looking at the zone, right, all the way to the south, we can see Snow and Modisk. Now, that means that this zone probably has a pretty good chance to pull to the north, right? It's all random. It could keep pulling south, but likely they will have to make a rotation to the north. And FKS and Baylor are aware of their position, so it could be a very troublesome rotate. As you can see, one of those troublesome rotates being highlighted here by Spy and Dexify, again finding themselves in one of these high ground positions to kind of watch their surrounding area, and it's going to allow them to pick up a quick elimination on a player that is rotating in late on the zone there. And now look at that. You know, I'm like, oh, the zone's going to go to the north, right? Nope. Snow and Modus, they're going to be just fine holding down that building there to the south for at least this next zone.
Yeah, in that overall view, like looking at the players that were already in zone, they're so evenly split. You have a team north, team south, team east, team west, and a team smack dab in the middle. So this is going to be tough for any of these remaining players that are no longer in the zone, because not only are they going to have to rotate, but they're going to have to rotate with a player on every edge of the zone already established. So you're going to have to start moving here and start moving quickly. But for FKS and Baylor, They found themselves that center spot that I was talking about moments ago, and they're doing a good job of holding it thus far. As long as they can maintain some pressure and keeping some of those players away, they should be good to go here in the remainder of this game. However, when you got Revere Buka and Grev here, this is a team that we've consistently seen make it to the later parts of these games, and today even, when we've been watching them closely, they've been doing a good job. Not any elimination on the board quite yet. However, they're still putting in work and trying to make sure that they get as many placement points as possible.
Yeah, and look at this, one of these edge zone fights. King on the back foot here has to make a rotation, and he is looking like he wants to create some sort of fight here with Spy and Dexifite. He is paying attention closely. I'm going to be looking for that perfect nade range. Very, very close, but no, a couple meters off as Dexifite and Spy look to hold these guys out. And here comes the Anvil rocket launcher, going to be doing some big damage onto this truck here. If they lose this truck, it's going to make the rotation very, very hard. They do have this tank, but all of the lobby kind of has nothing other to do than to kind of look at King and VDFO as they try to make this rotation. So it could prove to be troublesome as Dexifite puts down some good covering fire onto the tank, and it looks like that tank is going to go down. Man, King and VDFO, they still have a lot of distance to cover here. Maybe those shockwaves will help. Yep, there they go. King uses one. VDFO going to follow as Dexifite looks for a new angle, and King goes down, as does VDFO.
Man, that is a quick cleanup of a team that looked like they were going to be able to do some things in this end game, but unfortunately for them, the shockwaves just weren't enough to fully make it into zone and stay alive. But for players like 75 and Ratpat, they're going to continue to try and get as many tags in and apply as much pressure as possible across this lobby. We talked about the ideal loadouts, right? But I feel like every day that we've tuned in Vivid, it's literally been a different loadout that we've seen be successful, right? Like the first day, we talked about shockwaves and how shockwaves are super vital. Then the next day, we're talking about anything that can get the vehicles out of the game, right? Then Riftigos are added to the game, so we see that affect NA. I mean, literally every day has been something new and a new challenge, more or less, for these players to adapt to. But honestly, they've adapted, and they continue to showcase why they are such talented players and deserve to be a part of this mega event later this year.
Yeah, for sure. Very good point there. That adaptation mid-tournament proving to be something that these players do have to conquer. As Baylor and FKS, if we look at the map, they're actually the only duo in this next zone. They have such a good position, and all these other players, you know, they're trying to make these rotations around. As you can see, Buka making a little bit of a cheeky little peek there on a player, but no, Hero's actually just going to use that Rift to go. Very good decision by him, because if we tried to make the rotation on foot, that would not have worked out. As we see Baylor actually looking to maintain a position, but no, they were in such a good position that so many players were trying to converge on it. They could not defend off the entirety of the lobby. So now that position has kind of opened up. Nobody is actually holding down that center rock of this zone, as pretty much we are just breaking into a bunch of chaos. Buka's going to be getting taken out there. I think we'll be able to slide down the hill there, maybe Kit. Revived by his teammate there. As you can see, Modisk and Snow actually find themselves in a good position, but no, Snow is down, and Modisk has to shock wave away. As we tune in over here to Rapid and P5, they are just gonna chill behind these cow catchers, and Mori actually left with this good position with his duo alive, Kakarot, with this rock control.
Wow. I mean, and it's funny because obviously there was another team here, and I think it was was it P5?
Yes.
I think it was. At least at one point they were there, right? And so to see teams getting eliminated from this position is kind of surprising. But at the same time, if you're not careful, you can lose that ideal position. And it does look like it was P5 and Rapid that were up there. Now they're forced down. But when all of the engagements start, this is your chance to shine. This is your chance to be a part of the fight or find yourself a better position. But with the final moments unveiling themselves here, it looks like Rapid looking in good control, does end up getting a disengage there from Mori. Not going to be enough though. 33 white HP in a dream, and Rapid goes down. Mori looking for more eliminations to put on the board. Now it is a 2v1 situation. The heavy sniper is out, and with one shot, he's out. Mori is done, meaning that Grev and Buka walk away with the victory royale.
Listen, Panda, that is listen, that's what I was talking about, right? We don't see as many vehicles as we do in other regions over on the MENA region, and it creates for these very cool end games. Shockwave plays coming out, and that Rock playing such a pivotal point in this end game. That was awesome to watch, watching so many vehicles